jobs to Mexico and every other place. 47 million Americans are on food stamps, and 45 million people, think of it, this is our country, are living in poverty. Meanwhile, our trade deficit with the world is now nearly $800 billion a year. You say, who negotiates these contracts? We're living through, it's true, Obama. It's true. You know, instead of campaigning for Hillary Clinton, he ought to be in the White House, in the Oval Office, negotiating trade deals, beating ISIS, taking care of our veterans, which he does not do. We're living through the greatest jobs theft in the history of the world. They're stealing our jobs. Greatest in the history of the world. New Hampshire has lost 1 in 3 manufacturing jobs since NAFTA, a deal signed by Bill Clinton and supported strongly by Hillary. We've lost 70,000 factories since China entered the World Trade Organization. Another Bill and Hillary disaster. The Trump administration will immediately begin negotiating, and we will start this negotiation so fast. We will start a negotiation on NAFTA, and if we don't get the deal we want, we will terminate NAFTA and get a much, much better trade deal. And I won't go into the details, but because they're different tax systems, they're under a VAT system and we're under our system. But because of the fact that they're under a much different tax system, the day the deal was signed, it was a defective deal, with us having a massive, at least 17% disadvantage. So it's complicated. I'm not going to bother you or bore you with it, but we've been working with a defective deal for years, and nobody, no politician ever went back to renegotiate it. We're going to get it done, folks, so easily. If a company wants to fire their workers and go to Mexico or another country, and then they think they're going to ship their products back into the United States, we will charge them. They're negotiating to leave here. They'll leave New Hampshire. They'll leave Pennsylvania. They're going to leave Ohio. They're going to leave all of these places, all of our great places and great states. And right now, as we're talking, they're negotiating deals. Mexico is the 8th wonder of the world in terms of the new plants. A friend of mine builds plants. He's the biggest. He said the 8th wonder of the world, what's happening in Mexico. And I say, and I tell this to people, what about us? He said, not going to be. It's going to be the other way around. But there will be consequences. And you know, when they realize that they've got to now pay a tax and all of that to come through our very strong border, because it will be a strong border, with their product, you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, let's stay. We're not going to move. And they're going to stay. It's very simple. But the politicians don't want to do that because they're controlled. They're controlled by the people that give them their campaign contributions and probably other things. We will, does anybody know what I mean by that? Yeah. We will also stand up to Chinese currency manipulation, and we will stop the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We will become a rich nation again. But to be a rich nation, we must also be a safe nation. Hillary Clinton unleashed ISIS onto the world, and it has now spread into our country. There are right now 1,000 open ISIS investigations across the United States, more than at any time that we've ever had. Now Hillary wants to increase by 550% the massive number of Syrian refugees flowing into our country. That's over the Obama numbers, and those are thousands and thousands of people. A Trump administration will suspend the Syrian refugee program. And we'll help them with safe havens, and we'll get other countries over there, like the Gulf states, who have nothing but money. We have $20 trillion in debt. We'll get them to pay. They got to do their share. We'll lead it. We'll help. They'll pay. But you know what? We can't let people into this country that we don't know about. We don't know. Let me state this as clearly as I can. If I'm elected president, I am going to keep when we love New Hampshire. I love this place. I love this place. By the way, you know, we're leading in Florida, we're leading in all these places. The recent poll said we're 2 down in New Hampshire. You know what I said? I don't think so. I don't think so. These are called dirty polls. You know what that is? These are false. I don't think so. She comes up here, she has 4 people, and it's like, oh, we have a wonderful crowd. I don't think so. I think we're winning New Hampshire big. Okay, so we'll change it. When I'm elected president, I am going to keep radical Islamic terrorists the hell out of our country. The Trump administration will also secure and defend the borders of the United States. Boy, do you people have energy. You're great. Well, let's face it, it's been a long time, right? It's been a long time. You've been waiting a long time for the right person, but you do have energy. You know what's happening? A lot of these places. A lot of the different places, reports are coming out. They hate to write it, you know, the dishonest media, but people, by the way, great people. Oh, they're the worst. They're so dishonest. They are so dishonest, folks. But a lot of these reports coming out in the early voting states, people are coming up that have never voted. These are great Americans. These are great people, but they've just never seen anybody that they wanted to like. They've never heard people say, we're going to actually bring back your jobs. We're not going to let companies leave us and fire everybody and move and then let the product pour into our country with no tax. No, just go ahead. Leave, fire all our people, move to Mexico, make the product, sell your air conditioners. Carrier as an example, they're leaving. They might not leave. They're probably all about ready to change their mind, but and just let your product come right in. No tax, no nothing. I mean, how stupid is this? How stupid? And I'm a free trader, I'm a fair trader, but we have the wrong people represented. So what's happening is these lines in Florida are 4 blocks long. They would never like that. They'd never seen anything like it. And in Tennessee, a great congressman, been there for 25 years, said to me, we have never seen anything like it. People are coming out that hadn't voted in years. People are coming out, they hadn't voted in years, so they're not polled, because, you know, unless you voted like in the last election, they don't want to poll you. So people are coming out that hadn't voted in years, happening in Texas. They haven't voted in years. And people that have never even voted, and yet they're great Americans. They just never saw somebody that they wanted to vote for. And they're coming out, and they've got the Trump shirt, and they've got the hat, they've got buttons all over the place. You know. Now, who knows? Who knows? They may have all of the Trump stuff, and you never know. Maybe they're voting for crooked Hillary Clinton, but I don't think so, right? I don't think so. History has taught us that we don't think so. So I think we're doing great. And yes, on the border, we have no choice. We will build a wall, and Mexico will pay for the wall. Got to stop the drugs. Got to stop the drugs. Remember my pledge to everybody, but in particular to New Hampshire, because I know what you're going through with the drugs. I know what your incredible law enforcement, your police, and your fire departments, because I see where they're helping so much. Believe me, they're not spoken about. And how about where they're shooting during fires? They're shooting at the firemen. Now, this is a new phenomenon. They're shooting at firemen. They're shooting bullets at firemen going to fires and fighting fires. So we have a divided country, and we're going to make our country love again. We're going to bring it like this room. Countless Americans who have died in recent years would be alive today if not for the open border policies of this administration. This includes incredible Americans like 21-year-old Sarah Root. You've heard that story. You've seen it. You've read about it. The man who killed her arrived at the border, entered federal custody, and then was released into the United States community under the policies of this White House. He was released again and again after crime, and now is at large. Sarah graduated from college just the day before with a 4.0 grade average, top in her class. She was violently killed. Outstanding young woman. I know her parents are incredible. Also among the victims of Obama-Clinton open borders policy was Grant Ronebeck, a 21-year-old convenience store clerk in Mesa, Arizona. He was murdered by an illegal immigrant gang member previously convicted of burglary, who had also been released from federal custody. And so many people said, please, 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 don't release him. He's violent. And he shot Grant through the head. Another victim who we've all read about and known about, Kate Steinle, gunned down in the sanctuary city of San Francisco by an illegal immigrant. And this person was deported 5 previous times. And now he's got a good lawyer, and the case will go on and on and on. He's got a lawyer. I see them in court all the time. The case will go on and on. Shot in the back while standing with her father, great parents, great brother. Then there is the case of 90-year-old Earl Olander, who was brutally beaten and left to bleed to death in his home. The perpetrators were illegal immigrants with criminal records a mile long, but who did not meet the Obama administration's priorities for removal. People begged that they be incarcerated or be moved out of the country, but our geniuses wouldn't listen. In California, a 64-year-old Air Force veteran, Marilyn Ferris, was sexually assaulted and beaten to death with a hammer. Her killer had been arrested on multiple occasions, but was never deported. People asked, please, please deport him. This is what happened. This is a crime wave that never ends. I can tell you, it's thousands of cases like this. When I'm president, believe me, it will end. Not only will a wall keep out the dangerous cartels and criminals, but will also keep out the drugs, remember New Hampshire, and the heroin poisoning our youth. Our youth is being poisoned before they get a chance to start. And by the way, I've met plenty of people in New Hampshire that are not our youth that have a tremendous problem. And I want to tell you, we're going to work with people. We're going to set up programs. We're going to try everything we can to get them unaddicted. Unaddicted. So as I said, when I won the New Hampshire primary, I promised the people of New Hampshire that we would stop drugs from pouring into your community, and I guarantee you we will. You will be so proud of your president. You will be so proud of your community. You will be so proud of it. I just want to say in closing that we have an amazing movement going on, a movement like they've never seen before, a movement that hopefully won't be stopped. We have a movement that the biggest people in the world of the media, the biggest, have said they've never seen anything like it before. Every crowd, every auditorium. The other night we had a situation, we had thousands and thousands of people, and I said to the fire marshal, isn't it possible to let more in? We had thousands of people in this massive field, and we had many thousands outside of the gates they wouldn't let in. And I said, couldn't we let them in? And they said, we can't. I said, but there's no fire, we're outside. He said, it's stampede, Mr. Trump, we're worried about a stampede. And it's a stampede of love. It's true, it's not a stampede. It's a stampede of love. because there were so many people. They said, we have very strong security guards, but Mr. Trump, they're not nearly as strong as 45,000 people come charging for. So I fully understood it. But we have something going on that's so special. It's so special. We're going to reduce your taxes. We're going to simplify your taxes. We're going to make your businesses welcome in our country. Thank you. We're going to reduce the taxes for middle-income people. We call them the forgotten man and women. Greatly simplify your returns. The only company that I can think of that won't like us is H&R Block. They will not like us. They're not going to like Trump too much. But we'll greatly simplify your taxes. And your businesses, we're taking it from 35%, which is one of the highest in the world, just about the highest, down to one of the lowest in the world, 15%. We're getting rid of a lot of the regulations that are stopping growth. Tremendous amounts of regulations are killing your small businesses and your big business. So we're going to have a very tax-friendly country again. And it's going to mean jobs. It's going to mean expansion. It's going to mean new companies growing. We are going to create the border. We are going to stop the drugs. We're going to have people come into our country. We want people to come into our country, but they have to come in legally. They have to come in through a legal process. We want a lot of people to come in, and they're going to come in, but they'll come in legally. And we're going to streamline the process. People are waiting online now 10 years. We're going to streamline because we want people to come in, but we want them to come in legally. And we want merit, too. We want to take wonderful, great people. We want people that love our country, they want to get out, and they want to do a great job. We want to have them also come in based on merit. A word you don't hear anymore. A word you don't hear anymore. It's too bad. We're also going to, very importantly, appoint justices to the Supreme Court who you can be proud of and who will respect the Constitution of the United States. We're going to save our Second Amendment, which is under unbelievable suit. We're going to help Big League on education. We're going to go with choice, so important. And we're going to terminate Common Core and bring education, local. Our military is depleted. We are going to rebuild our military. We are going to lead through strength. And hopefully we're not going to have to use our military, but I will say this. ISIL, we're getting rid of ISIS. We are getting rid of ISIS. ISIS is, we have no choice. By the way, not since medieval times has anyone seen any chopping off of heads, drowning in steel cages, burying in sand. Not since medieval times. It all grew during the tenure of Obama and Hillary Clinton. ISIS, and you know, she stands up and she says what she's going to do. Well, she was there. It came out of the vacuum because we should have never gone to Iraq. But once we did, we should have gone out the right way, not the wrong way. And the way they went out was so bad, including giving back Mosul, which now they're fighting to take back. And it would have been nice, the element of surprise. Do we agree? Does anybody not agree? The element of surprise. We don't use the element of surprise. We use the element of tell them everything we can possibly tell them, give them plenty of time to get ready, and then attack. And it turns out to be a lot tougher than they ever thought. But we're going to have a country that you're going to be proud of again. We're going to have a president that hopefully you will be proud of. I will work so hard for every community. I'll be working very hard for the African American community, for the Hispanic community. I'll be working hard for every community. And we're going to have this divided nation come together. And I just want to say, we're going to make America strong again. We're going to make America, doesn't sound nice, but we have no choice, wealthy again. But we are going to make America great again. And I want to thank everybody in New Hampshire. Get out and vote. You're very special people. You are very, very special people. God bless you. Get out and vote. Thank you. Thank you, New Hampshire.
All right, so the FBI may reopen an investigation into Hillary Clinton's email. That was Donald Trump you were listening to right there, of course, in Manchester, New Hampshire. Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa Francis. FBI Director Comey saying they've gotten new information pertinent to the case. The announcement coming. Donald Trump wrapping up a speech in New Hampshire, and Hillary Clinton is about to speak in Iowa. We saw her get off the plane just a short time ago. That's her crowd you're seeing there on the other side of the screen. Ed Henry joins us now for the latest on the FBI announcement. I mean, wow, what a turn of events. So we're looking at the language here because we want to be very careful. The FBI's note from James Comey saying in connection to an unrelated case, the FBI has learned of the existence of emails that appear to be pertinent to the investigation. Parse that for me, because language is important right now.
So, very important, to be precise. Number one, I just got off the phone with a former top FBI official, Ron Hosko. He used to be the assistant director of the FBI. He's done a lot of these kinds of criminal investigations. What he tells me, so our viewers can understand it crystal clear, is that at any given time, the FBI has dozens and dozens of investigations. And so they said some months ago, we're not moving forward with criminal charges against Hillary Clinton. But wait a second, there are all these other investigations open, and in one of those, he says, they must have found these emails, that they must have bumped up against the Hillary Clinton allegations in some other investigation. We're digging to find out what that was. I mean, Terry McAuliffe, the governor of Virginia, for example, is currently under open FBI investigation over some of his fundraising and other things. Could it be that? Could it be another thing? The FBI is always investigating literally hundreds of things. And so what is critical here is number two, the FBI director's statement says, what we're trying to determine is whether these new emails that have come to our attention, whether they contain classified information, as well as to assess their importance to our investigation. It's very possible they'll look at these new emails and say, there's not classified information, and it's not pertinent to it. But I find that hard to believe, because this is an extraordinary thing for the FBI director, 11 days before the investigation, to say, I'm investigating this again. This is a big deal.
Ed Henry, so when I look at this statement, and to put it all in context, we remember back when Comey came out and he said that in order to try and pursue charges against someone, and I'm paraphrasing obviously because this was a little while ago, but to pursue charges against someone who was in a race, you know, where it would have this kind of an impact, you know, that they had to think about what it would mean for everything that was going on in the country. My point is that he's been cognizant in the past of the fact that we're talking about an election that's going on. So for him now, 10 days out, to write this letter and say, hey, we may have found some emails that are pertinent, he knows what he's doing. He knows what a big deal it is. Makes you feel like there must be something. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Your thoughts.
Yes, but Melissa, here's the thing, is that the FBI director is supposed to be, and I underline supposed to be, non-political. Wow. There's a reason why he or she, in this case it's James Comey, has a 10-year term. They're supposed to be in office longer than any one president, so that there's at least less political influence here. James Comey is someone who served in the Justice Department under George W. Bush and had, and I also underline the word had, a sterling reputation for standing up and following the facts wherever they go, regardless of politics. He stood up to the Bush White House. That's why Democrats and Republicans at the beginning of the Clinton criminal probe said, this is the perfect guy to investigate this. But let me tell you, he has been under intense pressure in recent weeks to figure out why he did not pursue criminal charges for this reason. At that extraordinary news conference where he said Hillary Clinton basically mishandled classified information, there were all kinds of problems with the server and whatnot, and walked right up to the line to saying there was criminal behavior, and then saying, but we're not going to move forward with criminal charges. I've been talking to former FBI agents and officials who say that they are livid at the fact that they believe he had the goods in the first round and did not move forward. You're certainly right that now the Clinton camp is very likely to cry foul and say 11 days before the election, this is no time to sort of reopen this investigation. Let me tell you, I just talked to this former FBI official who said he doesn't want to hear anything from Hillary Clinton about timing because she's the one who kept the server and the private email account secret for months and months and months.
Yeah.
So if she really wanted it to not fall right before an election, she should have dealt with this a long time ago. So that's one view there, Melissa.
Amazing. I mean, if this were a movie, the twists and turns, we wouldn't believe it, but it's real. It's amazing. Ed Henry, thank you so much. Joining me now on the phone, North Carolina Congressman Mark Meadows. He's a member of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Thank you, sir, for being on the show. Let me ask you, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think happens from here? What have you heard?
Well, obviously, it's a significant development as we see this case being reopened. And I would agree with Ed Henry. The significance of it is really that to come out 11 days before an election, when Director Comey has tried to make sure that this was not deemed a political investigation, would suggest that there is really a lot of there. What it suggests is that in this new information that they're reviewing, that came to light apparently yesterday, that as we start to look at this, it could not only put the claims that there was nothing improper on behalf of Hillary Clinton in serious doubt and question. I can tell you that the pressure that Director Comey would feel has really not come from Congress. I mean, most of our oversight committee was extremely disappointed with the conclusion, but chalked it up to the fact that we would have to abide by the director's decision. This particular information is not only alarming, but it is a good call, is that there hopefully will not be two standards. We do know that military men and women have been prosecuted for doing less than what Hillary Clinton has done. And so hopefully we will see justice prevail in this particular case.
Okay. I want to ask you, because obviously you're on the Oversight Committee. We've already heard from Jason Chaffetz a while ago, who said that this, quote, came out of the blue. Is that your impression as well? Did you have any hint that anything like this was coming?
We did not. I mean, obviously, Chairman Chaffetz and I have been following a number of different avenues as it relates to missing emails and the improper way that we believe that national security interests were protected. But it was a big surprise to both the chairman and myself that they would reopen an investigation, because all indications in our discussions with FBI and Department of Justice officials has indicated that this was a closed case, and so it would bear witness to the fact that there is obviously some significant information that they are considering now, especially in light of making the announcement a few days before November 8th.
Yeah, I mean, as you well know, Director Comey put out a 3-paragraph statement about this, and said that it's in connection to an unrelated case. They've learned of the existence of emails that appear to be pertinent to the investigation. At first glance, a lot of people would think that this has to do with the WikiLeaks and all the emails we've heard there. But from that language, it feels like these emails are coming from somewhere else. What is your impression?
Not necessarily from WikiLeaks, because as Ed Henry was mentioning, there are a number of ongoing investigations on a variety of subjects that the FBI is constantly involved with. I can share with you that in discussions some weeks ago, that some of the other areas that they were looking at, might have crossover. And so, not speaking specifically with any knowledge of any particular investigation, but as we start to look at some of the other information that has disappeared, just the FBI in their normal way of being, complete and making sure that everything is buttoned up. It would suggest that the one criteria that Director Comey mentioned was intent. Now, I don't necessarily concur with the fact that there has to be an intent there for her to be held criminally liable, but it would suggest that perhaps they found emails that would indicate that there was some intent to cover up or at least dispose of improperly.
Okay. Congressman Mark Meadows, thank you so much for joining us. You can see that we are watching there on the bottom of our screen Hillary Clinton. We are awaiting her to come out and address the crowd. We have a reporter on the ground there that's going to give us a full report. We're going to have reaction from the Clinton camp on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere. Fox News alert for you now. Donald Trump wrapping up a speech in New Hampshire. Hillary Clinton is just moments away from taking the stage in Iowa. With us now with some reaction from the Clinton campaign on the FBI's announcement that they may be looking into all that email business again. Jennifer Griffin is in Iowa. We saw her come down and get off the plane. What's the mood like there, Jennifer?
Well, Melissa, this is the October surprise that the campaign never anticipated. They thought they had put the FBI investigation to bed back on the July 4th weekend after Comey came out and said that he would not be pressing charges. This is clearly catching the campaign off guard. When Hillary Clinton landed in Cedar Rapids, the pool shouted a question to her, said, "What do you make of Comey reopening the investigation? Have you been in touch with the FBI?" She simply smiled and waved. She ignored the question. Meanwhile, in Tallahassee, Florida, Tim Kaine, her running mate, was appearing at an event with Congressman Gabby Giffords and her husband. He clearly was caught off guard. He was asked by the traveling pool what he thought of James Comey, the FBI director, reopening the email investigation. And he appeared a little bit flustered and said, "I have to read more. I have to read more." It's clear he has not been in touch with Hillary Clinton or her campaign. Her campaign representatives came back to the back of the plane before the news had broken. They were talking about the way ahead in the coming days. We do have the only reaction we've seen so far from a Clinton ally was a tweet by Tommy Vietor, who, remember, used to be a spokesperson for the NSC over at the White House. He is now at Beacon Strategies. That is the consulting firm where Philippe Reines, a key aide to Hillary Clinton, is located. And Tommy Vietor writes, "How many emails did the FBI find? Get your butt in gear, read them, assess them, form a conclusion. Letting this hang is so irresponsible." So that is the only reaction we have from the Clinton side, even though Tommy Vietor is not technically speaking for the campaign right now. We have reached out to the campaign. There has been no reaction. I think it's important to point out that we've learned that this does not have to do with any WikiLeaks revelations. This is not a result of any of the hacked emails, John Podesta emails that the FBI believe and others believe that the Russians are behind. What is notable is that there are a number of high-level national security cases right now that the FBI has been pursuing, including one that Donald Trump likes to talk about involving four-star general, retired four-star general, General James Cartwright, who has been before a grand jury and had to talk about his role in releasing classified information as it related to the Stuxnet virus. That was a key case that came about in terms of Iran's nuclear program, and Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State at that time. So right now we know also from a recent report in the New York Post that the 33,000 emails that Clinton was supposed to have erased, that an aide to her was supposed to have erased, that those do still exist. So it's clear that now the FBI will be subpoenaing most likely those 33,000 emails. Back to you, Melissa.
A lot of us saw that report earlier today and we're watching it, wondering if it has something to do with it. We saw her vice presidential nominee on the stage warming up. Jennifer, thank you so much for that report, and we're going to take you back to the stage just as soon as she gets up there and starts talking. In the meantime, joining us for more on this, Catherine Timp. She is a columnist for the National Review and a Fox News contributor. Jessica Charlov is a Democratic pollster. She is a senior political strategist for Schoen Consulting. I said it before, if this were a movie, we wouldn't believe it because there are so many twists and turns. We're waiting for her to get up on the stage here. Jessica, what is your bet? Does she say anything about what just happened, or does she act like there's nothing going on?
I would, no, she's going to act like there's nothing going on. And I don't really know what she could say right now. I mean, it's so early on. When she could say, well, there's a bunch of bad news out there, but we should talk about how we're stronger together. I don't think that's going to play well. And that's her base there, right? I mean, this is not, they need to prep. They need to figure out something to say about this. And they need to get out there. I don't know if they have to have a press conference, sit down interview or something. But this is, I mean, this is the drip, drip, drip. This has been there from the beginning.
More than a drip, drip, drip with this
is like
this is pretty serious.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we've been talking about it. This is like worst day ever.
Yeah, Kat, I mean, is it worst day ever for the Democrats? I mean, the Republicans went through what was their worst day ever a couple Fridays ago. Now, is it the Democrats' turn on a Friday?
Yeah, absolutely, especially because they've been saying, it's been investigated. She didn't do anything. Stop talking about it, Republicans. Stop talking about it. You guys are ridiculous. Turns out it doesn't really look like it. They wouldn't even announce, that they may be relevant. They're obviously doing something right before the election. This is crazy. She's not going to say anything. I think you're right. Absolutely. What could she say?
Yeah.
She's going to act like it's no big deal. But this is about as big of a deal as anything I can imagine.
If you see on the right side of your screen there, we're showing some footage of this is Hillary Clinton when she was getting off the plane, I believe it was. This is when they're on the plane and they're getting ready to get off. A lot of people wondering what was going on, almost behind closed doors, but of course they're on the plane, you know what I mean. As these announcements were coming out, and we were all hearing about them, and we're looking at some video of what was going on minutes ago. She's going to be out here. Jessica, it's interesting, so you say don't address it at all, although it is obviously the biggest thing going on right now.
Not
There's
to the
nothing
people in
to
that
say.
crowd, though.
Really?
I mean, that's
she doesn't reassure them in some way, saying, don't worry.
No, I really believe that if she doesn't have a fully prepared answer, and I think now that everyone is in manic mode, right, trying to get someone on the phone who knows what's going on, I think the fact that Tim Kaine was taken by surprise shows how surprised the campaign is. I think it's a mistake to say.
Are very surprising for Hillary Clinton.
Yes, Kat. I don't think she should say anything. She is doing well in Iowa. She needs to rally up the base. I think she should do her thing, talk about it. But I think where this becomes more and more difficult is how do you, when something like this is going on, how do you just trash Donald Trump? Right? I mean, he hasn't done anything bad in a few days. So, she's looking like the bad kid in the corner. So,
and we just want to tell our audience who's watching here, we think that Hillary Clinton is going to be the next one up to the mic. So as soon as she comes up, of course, we're going to quiet down and let you listen into that. But in the meantime, Kat, so let's realistically think this through. Here we are, we're 10, 11 days out. We get this information that they're saying, hey, guess what? We found other emails in relation to another investigation that we think are relevant, and we're looking at them now. The FBI doesn't move super quick,
right,
as they shouldn't. I mean, they should be very diligent and thoughtful in whatever investigation they're doing. How much more information could we get between now and election? And if it's just this, and it's sort of this cloud hanging around her again, what's the impact, do you think?
That's what's so interesting, is because they can't get anything done or find out anything in just 10 days. And in terms of there being suspicions, the people that everybody already knew that. Everybody's already had suspicions about Hillary Clinton. So I don't know that it's going to make that much of a difference. But if she does get convicted of something and she's already president, how does that work? Like, can you pardon yourself? Like, I believe this whole thing is
President
just so
Obama could pardon her in
so ridiculous.
Well,
I do think that you're right, though. I was just looking back at the numbers, her favorability numbers and her honesty and trustworthy numbers. And the latest Fox News poll, it's only 30% of Americans who trust her, 34% trust Trump. You can't get much worse than that. And I do think that this is baked
so you're
in.
saying people already thought she did something wrong, so more evidence of that has to come on.
Right, over the summer, 92% of Americans said they thought she'd done something wrong, and 56% thought that James Comey should have moved forward. So
you think it doesn't make that? I don't know. I think it's a huge
think it's a big deal. I just
we're
don't
going to
know
talk about it some more. We believe she's next up to the mic, so we're going to squeeze in a quick break here, and we'll be right back with that. Don't go anywhere, boy.
Would be working as a force right here in Cedar Rapids.
All right, we are awaiting Hillary Clinton, who we expect to speak any moment now. She is the next one up to the mic at her event right there you're watching in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. A short time ago, we heard from Donald Trump. And this is all in the wake of this news that the FBI is saying they've learned of the existence of emails that appear to be pertinent to the investigation, the Hillary Clinton email server investigation. They wanted to inform from the FBI and the Justice Department that the investigative team briefed Director Comey on this yesterday, and they're going to take appropriate investigative action. Jessica, I'm going to turn back to you. So we heard a short time ago that the president was heading across the South Lawn. He's on his way to Florida. Reporters were there shouting questions his way. He appeared to not hear them, sort of.
Well, I hear his hearing's been going. As his approval rating goes up, he just can't hear as well now.
But, I mean, you have to wonder what he knew. Did they let him know that they were going to
I'm not sure, but I hadn't thought of that angle. No, I'm not sure of that.
knows?
Obviously, no one texted me and told me in the vast Democrat conspiracy. But, yeah, listen, they've got to get their story straight before this one, because they have suffered so much with this story by people saying, you know, conflicting things and having to walk things back and speaking too early. So that I would rather people ignore reporters for the moment. But yeah, I think he's probably waiting for an answer from the campaign about this, and maybe to talk to the FBI or the Justice Department, or he just couldn't hear it.
And here she is coming up to the mic right now to cheers from her supporters.
Wow,
Let's listen in.
What a beautiful day in Cedar Rapids. I am so excited and happy to be back here. I really think of Iowa, and especially all the communities that I visited, as the place that got my campaign started and gave me the chance, as only Iowa does, to talk with families about all the problems that keep you up at night. And boy, did I hear a lot about rising prescription drug costs and the costs of college and student debt, and the epidemic, the quiet epidemic of addiction and mental health issues, the challenge of balancing family and work. All of those conversations in coffee shops and college campuses really put me on the path to understanding what it is your next president should do. And you invited me into your homes, your businesses, factory floors, so many places where people were working hard and thinking about the kind of future you wanted for yourselves and your families. And so now, with just 11 days left, we've got work to do. I want to thank Cindy Garlock for introducing me. As she told you, she's a retired teacher. She's one of our neighborhood team leaders. She and everyone working across the state are going to make sure that we win Iowa. I also am pleased to be joined here with a number of women leaders who are especially committed to making sure we have the kind of future that we need. And before I get to them, let me say a word about the recent flooding here in Cedar Rapids. You escaped another historic flood like the one you had 8 years ago, thank heaven. But we know that homes and families were still affected. And we need to make sure you have the resources you need, not just to respond to this flood, but to prevent devastation from future flooding. The progress that you've made in rebuilding Cedar Rapids, especially right here in the Nubo district, proves what's possible when we work together to solve our challenges. You know, I really do believe we are stronger together, and that's why, as president, I'll do everything I can to make sure we do more to protect Cedar Rapids and eastern Iowa from flooding and natural disasters. How many times do you have to go through this until we all say, hey, let's get together and make the changes we need to make sure you don't get devastated again? Now, I am thrilled to be here with some amazing women, both behind me and in front and on all sides of me. I see some women wearing T-shirts and sweatshirts that say, nasty woman. mean, really, you can't make this stuff up. But I want to say a word of support and recognition of Patty Judge, your former lieutenant governor candidate for U.S. Senate, who sure would bring a lot of common sense and hard-won experience to Washington. And I also hope that you will send Monica Vernon to the Congress. Now, what I just said about Cedar Rapids and Eastern Iowa, I need some reinforcements. And Monica and Patty would be just that, making the case for why this part of Iowa, this part of our country, is so essential to the agricultural industry, to food production industry. We've got a lot that we need to be doing. And I am thrilled to be here with my friends, Elise Hogue, Cecile Richards, and Stephanie Shriak. They are fearless and tireless advocates for women, and they organize. They get up every day trying to figure out what we're going to do to make sure we protect and further the rights of women and families in our country. And they have a lot of experience standing up to bullies, which is why they're especially dear to me. And I know that we've got to keep our foot on the gas. Donald Trump says he can still win. And you know, he's right. Anything can happen in an election. And here's his campaign strategy. He hasn't made it a big secret. His strategy is to get women to stay home, get young people to stay home, get people of color to stay home. It's all part of his scorched earth campaign, the last refuge of a bankrupt candidate. And it goes against everything we stand for in America. Now, we're not going to let that happen, are we? And you know how we will do that? By voting, by showing up with the biggest turnout in history. More women voting, more young people voting, more people of color voting, more Americans of every kind voting for a good, positive, unified vision of the future. And I have to tell you, once again, Iowa, you can make the difference. If all of you vote, if you get your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers to vote, we will make history on November the 8th. And I have to say that we're seeing some really promising signs of this. Right now, more than 200 million Americans have registered to vote. That is the biggest number in history. And of that 200 million, more than 50 million are young people, which is fabulous. So people are turning out, and I want to give you something to vote for, not just against, because I want you to be part of helping us implement an agenda that's going to move our country forward. I started my career all those years ago fighting for kids and families. That's been the cause of my life. It will be the mission of my presidency. I will get up every single day in the White House saying, what am I going to do to help every single person, and especially every child in this country, have the chance to live up to his or her God-given potential? Now, I will admit to this. I am sometimes criticized for having too many policies. And, you know, it's probably true. I have a plan for just about everything. I even wrote a book with my wonderful running mate, Tim Kaine, called Stronger Together, which has all of our ideas in it. And the other day it struck me because, you know, I do hear people making fun of me, like, oh, all the policies and the plans and everything. And I thought, well, you know, maybe this is a woman thing. we make lists, right? I love making lists, and then I love crossing things off. So, I want you to imagine that together we're going to vote on November 8th for an agenda that will become a list that we will work on to implement to improve your lives and make our country stronger and fairer and better in the future. Now, did any of you see the last debate? Oh my goodness. Well, I stood next to Donald Trump for 4.5 hours during those 3 debates. I think that proves once and for all I have the stamina to be president and commander-in-chief. And I have to tell you, he was always saying something that I was finding, oh boy, unacceptable. And I kept reminding myself, people say, well, you know, how did you keep your composure? Well, I practiced that a lot. I had my team and the young man playing Trump for me just insult me up and down. It was exhausting. I spent hours being insulted by my team and my friends. And boy, did it prepare me to stand there with the insulter known as Donald Trump. And so I kept thinking to myself, that wonderful line that Michelle Obama delivered in our convention when she gave her speech, when they go low, we go high. Now, Donald Trump has gone low, but in that last debate, he said something that was truly horrifying. He refused to say he would respect the results of this election. I know, it has never been done before. Nobody, you can go back and look at debates and speeches, nobody running for president representing one of our 2 major parties has ever said that. And I have to say, the first thing a president does on January 20th is to take an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. In our country, we have free and fair elections and a peaceful transfer of power. That is one of the great hallmarks of American democracy. And when you question the very institutions of our democracy, going back to the founding of our country, you are attacking democracy. Now, we have seen Donald Trump attack so many different kinds of Americans. He's attacked African Americans and Latinos and immigrants and Muslims and POWs and, of course, women and people with disabilities, right? But now his final target seems to be democracy itself. You know, I went to 112 countries as your Secretary of State, and in a lot of those countries, they're nowhere near democracies. They're dictatorships, they're authoritarian regimes, or they pretend to be democracies, but, you know, one of the people on the ballot gets 99% of the vote. And I knew every time I went anywhere else in the world how blessed I am to be an American. There's so many things to be grateful for, and how we govern ourselves and how we conduct our elections is among them. So we cannot just blow off what he's saying, because he still is saying it. He's standing up in front of large crowds, and you can see how he's egging them on, talking about rigged elections, talking about how we should just cancel the election and make him president. Right, yeah. Well, we've got to be vigilant about this. This is not something to be made light of, because There have been too many times in world history where somebody gets elected and then that's the last election that is held. So we have to not only stand up for whoever our candidates are, we have to stand up for the process of electing them, because that's how we lead ourselves. That's how we make decisions together. Now, I really believe that people are responding to that. And look at what's already happened. More than 16.5 million people have already voted. And here in Iowa, 370,000 people have cast their votes. One of those voters is Rulene Steininger in Des Moines, and she was born in 1913, before women had the right to vote. She's 103 now, and she's a pistol. She came to see me last time I was in Des Moines, which happened to be the first day of early voting, and she came to tell me she was on her way to cast her vote. She had her walker. She had some of her young family members there with her, but she was determined that she was going to vote, and vote early. So don't let anybody tell you they're too busy to vote. If Rulene can do it, anybody can get to the polls, get to the early voting places, get to the mailbox, cast your vote. I'm excited about what we're seeing across the country, because I think people turn out because they want to be for a better future, a common vision, a dynamic America where everyone counts and everyone has a place. So let me just briefly talk about some of the issues that I think people care about, because when you stop to think about it, every one of those issues is truly on the ballot. Now, they may not be listed. It might be my name and my opponent's name, but they're on the ballot. Here's one example. Throughout this campaign, actually throughout his life, Donald Trump has demeaned and insulted women. Now, we all heard the tape of him on the bus bragging about what he did to women, and given his long track record of lewd and offensive comments about women, it was shocking but not surprising. And then one woman after another has come forward to say what he said on that tape is exactly what he did to me. Now, how did Donald Trump respond? Well, he started holding big rallies, broadcast on TV. And he said he couldn't possibly have done those things because the women speaking out weren't attractive enough for him to have assaulted. He said, one woman, and I quote him, would not be my first choice. Look at her. I don't think so. He even called the female journalist covering the story disgusting, which he's called other women as well. He's also on tape bragging to the radio personality Howard Stern that he would routinely barge into the dressing rooms of beauty pageant contestants while they were undressed to, quote, inspect the women. That was his word. He was inspecting them. I sort of get away with that, he said. And maybe the most alarming part of what he said is that he admitted he did it with teenage contestants. Can you imagine? This is a man who relishes making women feel terrible about themselves in every possible way. Someone who thinks belittling and objectifying women make him a bigger man. He goes after dignity and self-worth of women, and I don't think there's a woman anywhere who doesn't know what that feels like. So this is who Donald Trump is. This is how he speaks. This is how he thinks. This is what he does. Now it's time for all of us to stand up and say, this is not who we are. We are better than that. We are Americans. It's no surprise that every policy he talks about reflect the same disrespect, even contempt for women. So make no mistake, women's health and rights, our futures, the futures of our daughters and our granddaughters, are on the ballot. We were reminded of that in the last debate when he pledged to overturn Roe v. Wade and end safe and legal abortion. He promised to defund Planned Parenthood, to wipe away the health care services that millions of women get for cancer screenings and so many other necessary help. And I just have to say, we have come too far to let Donald Trump take us back, haven't we? You know, I fight for women's issues, not just because I'm a woman, but because I believe these are American issues. Again, remember those 112 countries I visited? I saw in many of them the way women were treated, how they were marginalized and sidelined, how they were not guaranteed an education, health care, an opportunity to pursue their own dreams and ambitions. I think we have to continue to set the example that if you believe everyone in this country deserves an opportunity to go as far as their talent and hard work will take them, that includes both men and women, and every one of us should be committed to that goal. Well, you know, I started saying all this way back in the campaign months and months ago, and Donald Trump would say I was playing the woman card. Remember that? And you know what I say, if standing up for women's health and women's rights is playing the woman card, then deal me in. But we also have to make the economy work for everyone, not just those at the top. Men and women, the young, the old, everybody should have an economic opportunity to go as far as they can, because I believe when the middle class thrives, America thrives. And we're going to fight hard to make the biggest investment in new jobs since World War II. Investments in infrastructure, advanced manufacturing, technology, innovation, small businesses, which are the real heartbeat of any economy, where most of the new jobs will come from. And we're going to invest in clean, renewable energy to create millions of new jobs in that field. We are going to make America the clean energy superpower of the 21st century with your help. And I go around bragging about Iowa because you already get a third of your electricity from clean energy, mostly wind, right? So we know we can do this on a national basis. And we also have to make the economy fairer. That means raising the national minimum wage. So if you work full time, you're not mired in poverty. It means finally guaranteeing equal pay for women's work. And it means having affordable child care and paid family leave, because families are under so much stress today. And I met so many young family members, moms and dads, as I traveled across Iowa. And I keep meeting people who are really under tremendous pressure. Tim Kaine and I were in Pittsburgh last week, and Tim was talking to a big group of folks, and one of the women was holding a 3-year-old daughter, and Tim said, as we do, what a beautiful little girl. And the woman said, I came here to tell you and to tell Hillary Clinton that right after I had my baby, I got fired from my job because I had a tough pregnancy and a tough labor and delivery, and I couldn't come right back to work, so they fired me. I'll tell you, if we say we care about children and family values, don't you think we ought to have paid family leave and actually prove that we do? And you've heard me say before, We're going to have universal pre-kindergarten because we need to start our kids off with the best possible educational beginning. We're going to have good teachers and good schools in every zip code in Iowa and across America. And, you know, I'm very proud of the campaign that Senator Sanders and I ran. It was a campaign about issues and ideas, not insults, right? And when it finished, he and I got together, and we have a plan to make public colleges and universities tuition-free for families making less than $125,000 a year. That's the vast majority of families, but if you're over that number, we're going to make it debt-free. So you pay what you can afford, but you don't go into debt. And no matter where you go to college, we are going to make it easier and quicker for you to refinance, pay back, and end your student debt. I think it's time to support teachers and students. So vote to put a world-class education within reach for everyone. And we are also going to make sure that we have a tax system that is fair. And you know what that means? Nobody making less than $250,000 a year will have your taxes raised one bit. I have made that pledge. I'm going to carry through with that pledge. But we're going to tax millionaires and billionaires and corporations because they're not paying their fair share. And you can hear it when Trump talks about what he wants to do. He says he wants to cut trillions, that's trillions with a T, trillions of dollars in taxes from millionaires, billionaires, and corporations. Man, that is trickle-down economics on steroids. That is the worst idea. We need to build the economy from the middle out and the bottom up. That's what's going to get it growing and providing more jobs and opportunities. And it's especially ironic coming from a guy who didn't pay any federal income taxes, right? You know, back in the 90s, he lost $1 billion. He says that makes him smart. Look, I just don't know how smart you have to be to lose $1 billion in 1 year running casinos. But I've never met somebody who lost money running casinos, because with casinos, the house always wins, right? So he calls himself smart. His supporters call him a genius. Well, I guess you have to be a genius to lose $1 billion in a year. But here's what's important. Every one of us who's worked, gotten a paycheck, we've paid more in income tax to support our military, our vets, Pell Grants for students, health care, highways, education, agriculture, than Donald Trump. And I think that tells you everything you need to know about him. This is Donald Trump to a T. He is the poster boy for bad business behavior. His companies denied housing to African Americans because of their race. He made most of his products in other countries, not the United States. He bought Chinese steel instead of American steel to build his hotels. He stiffed small businesses, and I've met these people. I mean, my dad was a small businessman, and I know how hard he worked. And I've met people who had a contract with Donald Trump. They thought they'd died and gone to heaven. They were so excited. So they supplied pianos to his hotels. They installed marble or glass. They installed drapery fabrics. They worked hard, and then it came time to be paid, and he stiffed them. He wouldn't pay them. And honestly, it just made me very happy that my father never had a contract from Donald Trump, because when you work that hard, you deserve to be paid for the work and the services and the products you provide. So my friends, here's the bottom line. We all need to think about whatever issue is most important and visualize that on the ballot. And then compare and contrast what I've done for the last 30 years with what he's done, what I've produced for people to improve their lives, and what he's done. What I will do as your president if given the chance to serve, and what he will do. Think about every single concern you've got. Think about your kids and your grandkids and what you'll tell them about how you voted, because I want you to join me in voting for a better America. And here in Iowa, it's really easy. You can vote today or tomorrow at the auditor's office, or next week at libraries in Cedar Rapids and Marion. You can get a flyer as you leave from our organizers telling you the details. You can go to iwillvote.com to confirm your polling place, to make sure you have a plan to vote. You can reach out to people who are maybe shut-ins or have trouble getting around and help them to be able to vote. Every phone call you make, every door you knock on will help us make a difference in this election. So please go to HillaryClinton.com and sign up to volunteer, or take your phone out and text JOIN, J-O-I-N, to 47246. Because here's one thing you know for sure. On January 20th, America will have a new president. And the real question is, what kind of change are we going to have? Change is inevitable. It's up to us to determine how we're going to guide and shape that change. I personally don't think people, when they stop to consider it, want the kind of change Donald Trump is offering. Going back to the days when insurance companies and Wall Street could write their own rules, which is what he says he wants to do, rolling back marriage equality and women's rights, abandoning our alliances and allowing more countries to get nuclear weapons. Now that's change, all right, but not the change we need. I have a very different vision. It's more positive, it's more unifying. I want us to be a country with good, high-paying jobs in every community, where college is affordable, where hardworking immigrants who pay taxes have a path to citizenship. Where we respect each other, men and women, immigrants, African Americans, Latinos, Asians, everybody, that we recognize.